So what are the benefits of a lease option to the tenant? Well, the tenant can lock in an option price while cleaning up their credit, saving for a down payment, paying off debt, or establishing a 2-year work history. So as you can see, some people maybe not in a position to purchase a property, but they like your property and they want it, and they fear that prices will go up. They just want to lock it in. So that gives them time. It basically just buys them time to get the money they need and clean up the credit and all that. So it can be a really great benefit in that regard. And then, of course, lease payments can be credited towards the purchase price, reducing the purchase amount. And this is really great for people who just have a hard time saving money. Things come up. So if they're bound to this contract, they're forced to save money for that down payment. And again, that can be really great, especially if it's like a 3-year lease option. Then by then they should have reduced the purchase amount fairly substantially. Tenants can also lease option the property, fix it up, and then resell it for a profit before the lease option expires. And this is something that a lot of investors do, and it, again, can be a very lucrative way to tie up property, not have to get a loan because you've just lease optioned it and now you're just renting it. So that would be kind of like the loan payment, but you don't have to qualify for a loan. Then you do what you do and fix up the property and sell it when the lease option, when it's time for you to exercise your option. So that, again, can be a great opportunity. And it's actually something we did at Real Wealth Network just recently. Well, we didn't do it recently, but people got paid out on it recently. We did more of a commercial deal where we lease optioned a commercial building in Dublin, California. The option price was $10 million. We had a couple of years, I think, on that, on that term. And we only had to put an option fee of $1.2 million. Now that's, again, non-refundable, so it's a little scary, but on big deals like that. But yeah, we paid a $1.2 million option fee, tied up the property at $10 million. But this was back in, a few years ago when land prices and prices hadn't gone up yet, and we really believed that they would. So we felt safe in this situation. We knew that the city of Dublin wanted residential housing in that area, and that they would be okay with re-entitling. So that was our plan. During the option time frame, we re-entitled that land and turned it into residential lots, tearing down that old commercial building. And we were able to find actually 4 national builders wanted to buy those lots for $20 million. Remember, we tied up the property for $10 million. So here's an example where that seller did not know what was happening. They didn't realize that prices were going to go back up, because when prices are down, people think that they're going to stay. When prices are up, people think. So that's why you always got to understand market cycles. And in this case, we really knew what was happening in that part of Dublin, that it was being completely rezoned to be the new downtown, and that there would be a huge upside, and of course there was. Now the investors in that deal just got their check this week, and I think they're going to be really happy when they receive it. That was really a great deal. But this can be done on a much smaller scale. Let's say you find a $100,000 property, you lease option it, pay like $3,000 to $5,000 for that option fee, and maybe you have a 2-year period where you can buy it. You can just kind of rent that property and fix it up, or lease it out and fix it up. Increase the value and sell it, hopefully for a profit for more than the option price. So those are some of the benefits, but what are the risks of a lease option for the tenant? Well, if you end up not being able to fulfill the purchase, if you can't come up with the money, or you can't sell it, or you don't know what to do with it, you can lose that non-refundable option fee. You can lose all the money that you paid in higher lease payments for that down payment. And if you made any repairs, well, those aren't reimbursed. So you can lose a lot of money if you don't do it right. I mean, with the Dublin deal, that would have been terrifying. What if all of a sudden the city of Dublin decided they didn't want to re-entitle it? Well, we had a couple of backup plans for that. We would just improve the commercial building, it was old, and resell it as an improved building. And so, we obviously had a backup plan with those kinds of dollars, but a lot of people don't. So you need to be aware that if you cannot fulfill the option, you're going to lose a bunch of money that you invested in that property, because you're not going to be able to buy it. You're just going to have to renew. You have a couple of choices. You can renew your option if the landlord lets you, or you could try to sell the property to someone else who will pay that fee. But if you don't, then you lose the money you invested. All right, in the case of the landlord defaulting, this is something you don't really think about, but in the last 6 years, there were a lot of real estate investors who couldn't make their payments and just defaulted on the property. But meanwhile, they were collecting rents from the tenants living in those properties. So the landlord maybe not paying their bills, but the tenant is, and then the property gets foreclosed and the tenant loses their position and all the money they invested. So this was kind of prevalent over the Great Recession for the last 6 years, and there were a lot of attorneys out there helping tenants. I don't think we're going to see much of that in this coming phase, but it's certainly something to be aware of. Make sure you have a way of knowing if the taxes, insurance, and bills are being paid, certainly the mortgage, by the landlord. Okay, informal contracts. This is a huge risk. A handshake, a lousy contract that isn't really protecting you. Too many people just trust other people. I have been guilty in the past, and I no longer do that. I trust but verify with somebody who really specializes in whatever it is I'm trying to do. So don't do these deals with a handshake. No oral agreement. It's not going to hold up in court. An email, not so much. Have a solid contract, and talk about some of the things you need to have in there in just a minute. And then, of course, like I already said, the value of the property could decrease, but the landlord might decide, I don't really want to lower the price. If you want this property, you got to pay the higher price. And once again, here you are having invested all this money, but you would have to put more money on the table to close on the property, and that would be kind of a bummer. So don't overpay for the property in these lease option deals. Make sure you're getting market value, or better yet, under market value.